a large language model found a security flaw that my friend Adrian had missed. Now, Adrian is arguably one of the world's experts in container security. The machine beat him. That's the story that everybody wants to talk about, but it's the wrong story. After I saw Adrian's post about Claude finding a security flaw he missed, Reid Hoffman wrote a piece called In Defense of AI Slop. His argument is pretty simple. When Edison and Westinghouse brought their electrical grids online, businesses couldn't refactor their factories easily. They'd originally placed their generators in the centre and built the whole factory around this system of pulleys and belts. At the same time, the world of advertising did then exactly what they're doing now. They use this technology to create gigantic illuminated pickles, and in another example, quoting Reid's blog, the leaders of the world was a 2,000-foot sign on top of New York City's Hotel Normandy. It depicted a Roman chariot race, and it had nearly 20,000 light bulbs controlled by high-speed mechanical switches. What it did was stage a 30-second loop of stampeded horses and spinning wheels. Now, when it was eventually blown down in a storm, I'm sure that the neighbours were very happy. That was electricity slop. It's just like the type of shit we have to deal with now, the AI slop. The terrible content on LinkedIn, sorry Reid, the terrible content on LinkedIn, on Twitter and all of that stuff. So we're coping with that stuff right now. What Hoffman argues, and what I argue in Visionaries, Rebels and Machines, is that we build machines years before we know what to do with them. Decades can pass between their invention and the time it takes to find sensible uses for them. This, of course, kills the idiotic myth that necessity is the mother of invention. Often curiosity is the mother of invention. The people who close that gap are the third inventors. So roughly speaking, there are three types of inventor. The first makes the breakthrough discovery. That's a component that makes everything else possible. The second assembles those components into a working system. But the third inventor is the one who takes the working system on the one hand and maps it to unarticulated and possibly even unknown use cases on the other. In other words, they find uses that were previously unimaginable. Technologies, in other words, are solutions looking for problems, which means, of course, that their destiny lies not in the hands of their creators, but in the hands of their users and, of course, their third inventors. So consider our old friend Samuel Morse. Now, his documented motivation for inventing the telegraph was, of course, to keep Italians out of America and slaves in bondage. He failed, not because somebody stopped him, but because third inventors took the telegraph and did things with it that he could not even imagine, let alone conceive. It was the Associated Press who used it to share news stories. It was quick-witted operators at Slough and Paddington Station right here in London that used it to catch a murderer, the very first time a telegraph had been used to fight crime. And of course, it was William Alton's Western Union who invented the wire transfer. Thus, much to my delight, because the man, after all, was a complete mad racist, even by the standards of his day, much to my delight, Morse discovered that it's not the inventors of the technology that dictate its destiny, but rather its users, and especially the users who are the third inventors. Now we can return to our times, and especially mine and Adrian's time. We have a great example of some bloke who sold books on the internet. He desperately needed to scale his web store quicker if he was to win the race for customers on the digital frontier, like Richard Sears and Alva Roebuck had once won the race for customers on the actual frontier. So this bookseller's running around his office screaming, "Developers are alchemists and our job is to do everything we can do to get them to do their alchemy." In that anger, using computers and that newfangled computer program, the World Wide Web, the bookseller's team, in their role of third inventor, invented cloud computing. Not long after that, the team at Docker made Linux containers usable and then went on to find great uses for them. They too, in my opinion, were in the role of third inventor. Okay, so now let's return to the beginning, back to Adrian. It is true that an LLM found a security flaw in his code, but two things need pointing out. The first is that Adrian's expertise is essential to understanding what the LLM told him. Could you imagine your mum or dad understanding what Claude was telling Adrian about container provenance? I don't think so. The second is that a machine did not beat him. In this example, Adrian is cast in the role of third inventor. So what does all this mean for you, the regular viewers of Container Solutions TV and the people who enjoy what we do? Well, you've probably guessed it, but what it means is that it's not your job to sit around and wait for these use cases to be discovered. It is instead to create a safe environment so your third inventors can do what they need to do. Volta could not predict what Morse would do with a battery. Morse could not predict what Western Union did with the telegraph. Bezos could not predict what his team were going to do with the web technologies of the day. And of course, none of us saw what Docker went on to do with Alexei containers. In every case, a technology was in somebody's hands and the use cases were found. Adrian set out to work out whether LLMs and cybersecurity had a future together. But he could only do that because Anthropic have released their LLM early and let people like Adrian try to find those use cases. He is, in this case, to Anthropic what Western Union were once upon a time to Samuel Morse. So you've got to give your people space to experiment. Then you've got to get out of the way and let them do what they need to do. They might come up with something that you as a manager might not even be able to imagine. If you've enjoyed this, subscribe and like and all of that stuff below, and we'll see you the next time on Container Solutions TV. Thanks for watching Container Solutions TV. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube and follow Container Solutions on LinkedIn for cut down parts and weekly clips. If you want help with platform engineering, cloud native transformation, or you need to follow the money in order to change how you operate your cloud at scale, then visit our website using the links below and get in touch. We'll see you in the next episode.